authors, I'm Joanne Morrell, children's and young adult fiction writer and author of short non-fiction for authors. Thanks for joining me for the Hybrid Author Podcast, sharing interviews from industry professionals to help you forge a career as a hybrid author, both independently and traditionally publishing your books. You can get the show notes for each episode and sign up for your free author pass over at the Hybrid Author website to discover your writing process, get tips on how to publish productively, and get comfortable promoting your books at www.hybridauthor.com.au. Let's crack on with the episode.
Hello, authors! I hope you're all keeping well in whatever part of the world you reside and listen to the podcast in. Today's interview is with award-winning YA author AJ Betts, and we chat about her body of work, time, pacing, style, agents, author brand, author advice, and much more. So in my author adventure this week, it's been a bit of a revelation. Those of you who are regular listeners to the podcast know that I'm back in Perth, and I know it's not some exotic place, but I thought I'd still paint a picture. I'm recording this intro in my car outside my parents' house that I'm currently staying at, and it's an absolute beautiful day, I've got to say, very hot and lovely compared to some of the weather we've been having lately. I've gotten so used to recording the intro and the outro for the podcast on my phone because of the caravan trip. Even though I've got, a mic set up, I could be doing that, but it's because I batch the interviews. So while before releasing, I record the intros and the outros that week. So you might have noticed that some of the episodes I put out weekly, I still reference the caravan because they were recorded probably whilst I was away. But this upcoming one with AJ, this was actually done just last week. So I am a little bit nasally, just recovering from just a little cold. So that's all lines up. But anywho, as we are back for the foreseeable, my kids are now enrolled into mainstream school again, and I have been applying for jobs, like a bunch of them. And I became very aware of the things I was saying to people, since I've been back, like I need to find work. But I realized by the way I was speaking about it lately, it's as if I do my writing as a hobby on the side, for fun, and not as a business at all. And it got me thinking, I've been pondering a lot about my thoughts and beliefs and things like that ever since I put out Stacey Webb's Limiting Beliefs episode. And when did I stop discrediting my book business? And this all led to the real question, which I posed to myself was, when did I stop believing in myself and my book business? Have I ever believed in myself and my book business? And since then, I've thought long and hard about this and about me and, as I said, my limiting beliefs. And these are, you can't earn enough money from writing books, the self-doubt and fears I've had about my own non-fiction books, about, just everything, what if people don't like them? What if people think they're crap? All stuff I've dealt with over the past, which is actually in the Author Fears book. I think that with authorship and putting myself out there, I've truly been quite scared in the past, and I know this is a normal feeling for most authors as well. I feel like I have slowly let the opinions and ideas and output of others seep into my brain these last few years. So I took the time and I reassessed basically, and wrote down my author fears now at this point in my life about truly, what are my author fears about truly wholeheartedly pursuing this book business full time, not trying to freelance write on the side, not trying to get a mainstream job. What would that look like if I flipped it on its head? And it would look like, what if you can earn a good living from an author income? What if your books helped others as they, you intended to set them out to do? What if you are someone's favourite author? What if one of your stories reaches the dizzying heights of success? Rather than it takes years to make money from books, you hear all the time about people saying that, and that's fair enough. But then you've got to look at, there is other people who are earning an income from their author business. I say author business, not just books, because speaking comes under that, and there's other avenues that all fall under a book business. But, you know, you can adopt other people's languages, and I just think that our book businesses and our stories and our everything are our own. So we should put ourselves out there and find out for ourselves rather than taking on the musings of someone else and their experiences, because everybody, especially in writing, not one person's story is the same. So this all truly took on a whole new meaning and feeling within myself, because the nuts and bolts of all this has been about definitely self-belief, I think. And I'm not sure I've been believing in me lately for many reasons. Like I just said, in the media and telling us authors earn crumbs, disbelief from people close to me about this being a viable career path, you know, many things. And I'm looking at where I am at the moment, and at this point in time I'm fortunate enough to be in a predicament where I can be all in here. Although I will say I applied for about 40 jobs since I got back, and there's a lot of good interesting ones out there, including a librarian program, an officer's job in a nearby library, and I think, you know, if I got that, then I'd probably want to do that. And obviously I need to now sit back and wait for word to come in for these jobs, and I have started getting rejections and had a call about one, and there's been different things from that. But I have also made a choice to go all in with my book business. Now, I probably have been saying this as well at various times because that's been the belief, but I think somewhere in the back of my mind there was also other limiting beliefs, and I've also let other things get in the way. So no more! It means not getting deterred by my author fears and wholeheartedly backing myself, regularly publishing books independently and traditionally, and regularly holding workshops and creating courses and speaking events, and, as I said, not getting sidetracked. I'm all in. I believe in myself. I believe I can earn a full-time income from my author business. I know this, as I said, because of conversations I've had on this podcast. Episode 79, Philip Strang, for instance, decided what kind of author he wanted to be and went for it. It's a lot of work, but it's what I enjoy. Helen Scheurer, episode 42, she's an epic self-published author. Full-time author Joanna Penn, Orna Ross, Sasha Wosley. There's so many guests living this kind of life. It can be done. So every day after school drop-off, I have been going to the library and getting on with my manuscript this week. On Monday, I spent time finishing the edits for my junior fiction, first in series, The Caravan Kid, and sent it in for the Walker Manuscript Award comp. I have since been getting back into my first in series women's fiction. This is the project that I've been zipping in and out of each year, and I'm now 100% focusing on, like AJ Bett says in the upcoming interview, she tells her shiny new ideas to wait and back off until she's done with the work she's focusing on. So I pose to you, how do you feel about your book business to date? Are there certain areas you have misgivings about? Why is this, and what do you want to change here? So I'll leave you with a quote from the craft book I'm currently reading, which is Write Smart, Write Happy by Cheryl St. John. So the back is, vanish your writing doubts and obstacles. Writing is a vulnerable occupation. It is both personal and intimate. The act of writing, cycles of revision, and the confusing publishing industry can shatter a writer's confidence, leaving you feeling like an imposter, overcome with a rejection. Survival and success requires commitment, honesty, courage, resilience, sacrifice, and miles of heart. Cheryl says in the book, I've often asked for the best piece of advice for aspiring authors. I know the answer, but it's something that takes constant work and attention to achieve. This advice applies to writers at every stage of their career. Believe in yourself. There will be times when no one else believes in you. Times when you hear negative comments, see another writer achieve more, and receive a rejection letter or pages of revisions. At those times, you will need to believe in your ability, in the strength of your dream, in the hard-won wisdom that you are the only you, and only you could write your unique stories. So this episode is sponsored by Plotter. I'm happy to say Plotter have been a proud sponsor of the Hybrid Author podcast since, I think it was March this year. I've been using Plotter, since about that time to plot out my women's fiction, and it's just a great little tool. I definitely don't feel like I'm utilising all the amazing features on it, but that's something that I will definitely be doing once I get through this other women's fiction book. But Plotter basically is a program that you can visualise as your plot points. It lets you easily arrange and rearrange like scenes and plots and character arcs, so you can quickly find your way to the end of your tale. It's not a corkboard. You can quickly outline your book with visual story cards, filter your timeline by characters, places and tags, color coordinate your storylines to keep them organized, and flip the timeline to view it vertically. So, it's got a lot of features, but it's also got a really cool design elements. It's just put out a new design dark mode. Apparently people have been asking for that one. I mean, you can automate your outlines, you can see the entire story at a glance, and Plotter automatically generates a clean outline of your story for you to review, edit and export at the basis of your manuscript. It's just a great little tool, and I'm using it, and I'm using it alongside Scrivener as well. So there's a couple of programs that I've got in play to write my manuscripts. But yeah, if you haven't ever heard of Plotter, you can go to their website, www.plotter, which is plottr.com, and check it out, and you can also get a free trial.
AJ Betts is a Fremantle-based author, speaker, teacher, columnist, and cyclist. Her latest work is a fun, realistic novel called One Song, about a teenage band trying to record a song to enter into the prestigious Triple J Unearthed High competition. Her earlier books include the two-book speculative fiction series comprising of HIVE and Rogue, and Zack and Mia, which is available in 14 countries and was made into an Emmy Award-winning Hollywood television series, as well as Wavelength and Shutterspeed, which were published by Fremantle Press. In 2019, AJ was awarded a PhD on the topic of wonder through ECU and won the inaugural Western Australia Premier's Fellowship. AJ is originally from Queensland, but she has joined us in Western Australia since 2004. Welcome to the Hybrid Author Podcast, AJ.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be here.
We're absolutely stoked to have you. Please tell our listeners how you came to be a writer.
Yeah, sure. I've always been a writer. I don't know how many people answer like that. As long as I can remember, I've been making up stories. But how did I come to be a published author? I had developed all kinds of stories and poems and had them published. And then I was working on this short story, which kept growing and growing. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it because I wasn't ready to commit to being a novelist. It seemed a bit of a stretch. But at the time, while I was writing, I was also teaching. I was doing relief teaching, and I was working in a high school in Fremantle, and there was a class of year 10 boys, very disengaged readers, hated reading. They're like, I'm not going to read. And then I said to them, look, if you had to read anything, what would it be like? And they said, it would be, well, something that's happening here, not a long time ago, something like happening to someone like us. And I just thought, you know what, why don't I really knuckle down and finish this project I've been working on and make it into this book. And so that became Shutterspeed. It became my first full-length work. And then honestly, I entered into a competition called the Vogel Award. I did not win, but the judges sent me amazing feedback and saying, this is really good, you should get it published. And based on that, I sent it to Fremantle Press and they picked it up straight away. Fortunately, I don't have all of those rejection stories that most authors do have, because I spent so much time on it and I entered into a competition, and then I used kind of that feedback. And then I was just jumped straight into the second one, and now I'm 6 books in, and yeah, still going.
That's amazing. Did you know many novelists back then before you had started writing the stories and stuff?
I didn't know anybody. No, Originally, I was a poet when I lived in Brisbane. That's how I was known. And I was a part of a poetry group, workshop group, and they were all quite well-known poets in Brisbane as well. But when I moved to Perth and started work on Shutterspeed and really, like I said, devoted myself to it properly, didn't know any novelists. I started going to all the workshops I could, the Writers' Festival. I was like signing up to things and reading all the how-to books. But actually, I did know someone. I didn't even know he was an author, Kim Scott, the Miles Franklin Award. When I knew him as a cyclist because he was in my cycling group. And then it was after a Saturday ride, and I was having a cup of coffee and I was talking with someone, I've been offered this book deal, and they said, you should talk to Kim over there. I'm like, who's Kim? And they're like, oh, he's some writer. Anyway, so I got to chat, and he's like, oh, good on you, Amanda. That's great. So I didn't really knew that the writers are everywhere. Sometimes they're dressed in lycra. But no, I didn't know anyone really until I had the book published. And then I started on the festival circuit really. And I joined Squibby, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, and then got to know every children's book and YA and middle grade writer here in WA. And that was one of the best things for getting to know authors. And now they're my friends. And I can't imagine, being an author without them in my life.
Yeah. Oh, that's so random that Kim Scott was in the cyclist group. Of all the people, it's like, oh, that's incredible. Well, today's topic is about your entire body of work, and I just want to say I'm glad that you don't have all the rejection slips and all that sort of stuff. I think that's really cool, and that's a really different story. And do you think that is because you spend, so like you said, because you spend a lot of time on the work, or just you're just damn good?
Oh, I am not saying that. Please do not interpret that in that way. No. My first book, I was working on it for 6 years before I entered it into the Vogue Award, or maybe 5.5. And then I used the feedback from the judges to improve it. And then I worked with the editor. So no, certainly nothing's good early on. And it takes a lot of time. And so I have had other things rejected later for different reasons. And that's, it's the truth is it's not always about the quality of the work. It's about what does the publisher want, because the publishers want to sell books. It's a business, and they're not going to publish you if they can't sell you. So you might have written the most wonderful thing, but they're like, I don't think we can sell this. So I have had rejections after, like my book HIVE and its sequel Rogue was rejected by the publisher I had at the time. But that's not because it was terrible. They said, in fact, it's really great writing, but it's not what we're after. So it still hurts. It still really hurts. So I do have some rejection, just to be clear. But I don't have those marvelous stories that, Stephen King had. He was rejected 35 times before Carrie was published, or J.K. Rowling, or all of these other writers. So I do still have several of my own to boast of.
Yeah, no, that's it. Well, 6 years on a work, that's a good length of time. Has, in between all your works and your books and things, has the time gotten less for you working on them or publishing them? What's been the kind of consensus, or has it gotten longer?
Oh, look, I would love to say I've gotten quicker. Each book has its own length. So the first one took 8 years from concept to publication. My second book, Wavelength, was shorter at 2.5 years. But since then, they've kind of evened out at about 4 years. So Zack and Mia was 4.5, and my latest one song, was just under 4. So they're kind of averaging out like that. And part of that is me. That's what I need. But also I'm working. I have multiple jobs. I'm not a full-time writer. I can't afford to be. I don't earn enough money from my writing to be a full-time writer. By that, I'm doing a lot of speaking, which is also writing-related income, but it's not from the royalties themselves. And also that's how long it takes me. So what I've worked out is, on average, like ideally I can push out a first draft in 6 months. Like that's what I aim to do. And some of you might be thinking that's still a long time. But that feels like a good amount of time for me. And then after that, I spend however many years, another 3.5 or so, working by myself. I probably spend, I'm going to use one song, my latest book, as an example, because it's freshest. First draft, 6 months. Second draft was 10 months. So it's actually longer because it had so much work to do. But then I worked on it for 2.5 years by myself. No one saw anything. And then I submitted it to my agent, and it was about draft number 7 or 8 that I submitted it. Of course, he gets back to me with notes of his own, and then I go through it again. And then after that, I sent it to hopefully the publisher who will take it on, and they took it on. And then, of course, I spend the next 10 months working with editors and in different phases. So yeah, it works out roughly to be around 4 years for me. And that's just the amount of time it will take. I envy these people who pump out a book a year. I don't know how they do it, but part of my process is to be okay with that, is to be at peace with this is how long it takes. And the other thing is, I work really, really, really hard. When I say I'm a slow writer, I spend like most part of the day of most days, every day that I can. And I work so much. And it's the rewriting. I am a big rewriter. That's how I get to know the story. And if it takes me 4 years to create a book I'm proud of, then that's okay.
How much do you change the story, do you think?
You know what? I think from beginning, when I'm working on it, to the final publication, the story goes through, of course, many incarnations. The ending's usually the same. I generally know early on what the ending will be, and then part of my challenge is to work towards that ending. With one song, for instance, the beginning changed quite a lot. The opening 3 chapters had to go, said my editor, and she was right. And that's because there was stuff going on, like some backstory and some other scenes, and chapter 4 was really where the action started. So that's not unusual for me to either by myself or with the help of an editor go, oh yeah, let's chuck out a few of the early chapters. The story itself, the 5 characters remain the same, and the feel of it remains the same. It's just working out the pacing, really. So a lot of what I do now is when my revisions, so draft 1 is get something down, draft 2 is try to, make sense of it. And then from draft 3 on, I'm thinking about characterization, of course, but it's pacing and tension and planning all of these clues, all these things, which are so much fun to think about. And that's what I'm doing. So hopefully improving the pacing, because you can tell when something lags.
So you have this process, I suppose, with your writing, and pacing's a massive thing for yourself. Have you developed your process for each of the books? Has the pacing been the same, do you feel, or?
I've become more conscious of it. I am more aware. I'm hoping I start to think more about the reader, and I don't think about them draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, maybe later, like draft 6, draft 7. I'm starting to think more about those things, like pacing, and I'm not saying I give the reader what they want or what they need, but I'm hoping that I do give them surprises and just that right amount of tension. So that's a really fun thing. I like manipulating with pacing, especially as I'm writing YA. So if I was writing for an older audience, it wouldn't be perhaps such priority for me in the storytelling. But and it's interesting because I don't write big plot, action driven. I should say that I do have plot, but I don't have action driven stories. In fact, you might look through a few chapters and go, what actually has happened? So much of it is internal, and so much of it is between characters.
Driven,
and that's, in that regard, tension is so important. So I'm like, what kind of tension is at play here? How can I hide things from the reader, and how can I create this sense of mystery? And so, because I'm not writing such plot-driven stories, tension and pacing become so much more important to this process. I'm hoping I'm getting better at it. I'm not sure. Every book is its own beast. Every time I start a new book, I go at it really with this sense of, I want this to be unlike anything I've ever written and anything I've read by anyone else. So I'm making it very hard for myself by trying something new each time, because I can't fall back on a kind of clearly not formula. I'm not going to use some formula, but I'm on a kind of a rhythm or patterns that I developed in previous books. So I like this challenge of working out what the story needs each time, and I never know what that's going to be until, like I said, I'm well into the drafting and the rewriting process.
Oh, that's amazing. Do you tend to write too much? Like, as in the sense, like you've got loads to work with and then you've got to kind of pare it back?
I do. Can you tell from the way I talk too much as well?
No, not at all.
Because how do you know what you're thinking until you write it down? And how do you know what the characters are thinking and doing until you put it down? So I'm not a kind of a writer who can think through the story, like, oh yeah, I think this is what, no, I need to try it out on the page. So of course I'm trying out all of these scenes that don't work, and they don't make it to the final, and I'm trying out backstories, and a lot of those don't make it to the final as well. But how else do I know what the story is unless I put it down? So part of my process is working out where the story is and what doesn't need to be there. It's really hard to get rid of some of that stuff.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I suppose that's the editor's job, so yay for them.
Yeah.
So you are YA driven books. Obviously, adults enjoy these books as well, but you work with this demographic also, and it sounds like you're beginning with the reluctant readers and getting ideas from them, and that's kind of gone through, I think, your other books too. Do you have beta readers that are actually the kids? Do you ask them as you go on with the work? Do they get to read stuff as well, or not so much?
That's a good idea, and I probably should do that. I don't. part of it is because there's never a time where I'm like, you know what, I've got a draft I want to share. I'm always like in multiple drafts. Oh, no. I'm in various stages at once. I'm like playing with something. Hang on, I want to change this. So when I'm working on a story, it's mine and it's a mess, and it sounds like I'm a control freak here, but I don't want anyone else looking at it. And so I did want actually to show it to people, and I never got a draft to a point where I'm ready to. I showed I didn't I showed it to nobody. But what I do is I talk with people. So I might talk with young people and say, hey, so for instance, like, hey, do you wear a watch? Like just teenagers wear watches, and the teenagers use this and how so I might use them for specific purposes, but not to read the full manuscript. Yeah. And similarly, I used musical people who knew about music for one song, because I don't. And I would just draw on them and say, what would you do in this situation? How would you feel about this? And so I'm drawing on them, but not as a whole, because I'm not organized or willing to share it.
Maybe that will come.
I don't know. I wouldn't know. It's just my messy and controlling process that may or may not change.
Well, do you have an agent, or do you just submit to publishers yourself? Or
I have an agent now. Yep. I didn't for my first 3 novels, and the reason I got an agent, you don't need one. Like, no, I didn't need. I could have. I don't think my agent's listening to this, but I could go on without my agent. Bless him. But I got an agent because, HIVE and Rogue, I submitted to my publisher at the time. They weren't keen on it. What they wanted was something more like the book I'd previously written. So they wanted me to stay within that lane of realistic fiction. Meanwhile, I'd just spent all of these years developing HIVE and Rogue, and they were my complete obsession. And so I had to make a decision, and this was very hard at the time. Do I throw away HIVE and Rogue and write something like the previous novel that they want me to publish, or do I go elsewhere with HIVE and Rogue? And that's what I chose to do. And that's why I got an agent, because I thought, I don't know which publisher will want to take this on, because it's so different from my realistic body of work. And the agent picked it up, loved it, and he said, this is what we're going to do. So I needed that direction, and so I've been with him since. But like I said, there are a lot of writers and creators without agents, and that's okay. I could totally be surviving without one now too.
Yeah, it just would save you the time, though, and the effort, I guess, to spend researching publishers, shopping it around to find what the best fit would be. And if you're in that position, you can get one. Yay, why not?
And I don't know publishers. I don't know the ins and outs, and my agent does and did. And also, I'm terrible at talking about money. I just can't do it. And that's why he's useful. Every 4 years, I'm like, here's something new. Can you go and sort that out, please? And anytime there's a problem, I talk to the agent about it. So that's been useful. And the other thing is, when you're on your own and you're submitting to publishers, you can either submit to one and wait 3 months to hear back from them, or you can do what some authors do, just submit to everybody. I didn't feel comfortable with that, because I know you might be stepping on people's toes. There's this protocol, there's this etiquette of only submit to one publish. I don't know what people are saying anymore, but back when I was without an agent, that's what people said is the etiquette. Just submit to one publisher and wait. And with an agent, you don't do that. The agent submits to all at once, and the agent says, I'm giving you 2 weeks to get back to me. And I'm like, whoa, what power is that? I didn't have power at all when I was an unpublished novelist, and to just go, please, or anybody, will you look at it and get back to me in 3 months, perhaps? So it shifts the power dynamic a bit, and he can ask for things that you couldn't on your own. So definite pros and cons.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And were you nervous, because like you said, the first 3 books were realistic fiction, which I've never heard the term, I quite like that. And then these set of books was obviously something quite completely different. Still your writing style, though. And Hive and Rogue, are they magic realism? Are they fantasy? What are they classified as?
Yeah, they're considered, some people call them dystopian fiction.
Right.
So a lot of schools study them as in their dystopian units. I call them speculative fiction, verging on sci-fi, especially Rogue has sci-fi elements. But speculative is as in it's a possible future. So I was completely nervous, but as you say, it's my style. And even though I'm writing in genre, so dystopia or spec fic or sci-fi, even though I'm doing that, I'm coming at it from a completely realistic perspective. And so it feels real. Well, hopefully it feels real. I was nervous about how people would take it. And especially as it's not an easy read. Hive especially is, set in this fictional enclosed setting, and it's not an easy read because I don't tell you all, here's how the world works, blah blah blah, let me show you around, because it's first person perspective. You can only see the world through Haley's perspective, and she doesn't know a lot of things, so it's challenging in various ways. And I didn't know if readers would come with me, and I don't know, but that's nothing that I need to be thinking about, to be honest. I just want to write a fun story. And I've had a lot of readers come with me from contemporary realism into Hive and Rogue. And I've also picked up a lot of new readers. And I just think, to be honest, when I'm writing, I don't really think about genre. And when I'm reading, I don't think about genre because it's so limiting. And when I was writing Hive and Rogue, I thought, I want to write a dystopia that's not dystopia. I wanted to challenge certain conventions. So it's a shame that we need to put things into genre, really.
Yeah.
But I just like writing things that intrigue me. And as you say, my style runs through no matter what.
Yeah. Well, with one song, would you say that's gone back to realistic fiction?
Yeah. So that's back in realism, and not for any deliberate reason, just because that's the idea that grabbed me. So I never know what I'm going to be writing next, and I don't have a big plan. Like if I was a smarter person business wise, I would be trying to make an author brand and trying to promote myself and my books so that readers can immediately identify who I am and what they're going to find in my books. But I'm not that kind of person. So instead, I'm more interested in whatever idea grabs me. And as a result, I'm going to write in whatever genre for whichever audience. I'm not really sure.
Would you say your author brand is realistic, I guess, realistic fiction and exploring ideas or something like that? There is a kind of not a definitive brand, but from just our conversation just there.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's I try to write really authentic stories, regardless of where they're set and which genre. I try to write something that has a real emotional truth and honesty and perhaps grittiness to it. And so if anything, that's it. I do like to explore big ideas, but not, in a didactic way or a really heavy way. I like to explore some philosophical ideas which intrigued me as an adult, and I think I was intrigued by it as a teenager as well. So perhaps if anything, just that emotional authenticity, that's what matters to me. And when I hear from readers, that's what they communicate to me about what affects them. So just that connecting on a level which feels personal and feels kind of optimistic in a way as well. I'm writing for these teenagers and I really care about this age group, and I want to present, again, not in a didactic way, but I want to present my values really. And one of those is that life is good and to trust yourself and to be brave. And so of all my novels, it doesn't matter what they're about. I think these ideas are at the heart of it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think that's a really strong message, especially for that age group and just all of us, really.
I need to hear it every day.
Yeah, that's it. Well, it sounds like obviously, you write to discover, so sort of a discovery writer, and you write the ideas, I guess, that you're blessed with, whatever sort of sparks your interest. Like, heard that from one song, you were washing the dishes. I think, did you get the idea for another book, Washing the Dishes, as well? I feel like there was something came. I can't remember. Anyway, washing the dishes is a good place for you.
Wow. I don't have a dishwasher now, which is a problem for me. I'm going to get writer's block all of a sudden.
You'll have to go back to that. Yeah, go with that. I conjure them up.
One song I had the idea, Friday afternoon, I was washing the dishes and I had Triple J on and I heard them talk about the Triple J Unearthed High competition, and that's where I got the idea. The idea for Hive and Rogue came about because I was driving through the Graham Farmer freeway tunnel and I noticed a drip. So they're often small things. So I noticed a drip of water, and that led to a 2-book speculative series. And my books before then, like Zach and Mia, was inspired because I was working on a cancer ward with teenagers. So there was that real setting. That was my actual day job. And then a girl who I was working with, a teenager who had cancer, dared me to write a romance. And so those two things came together, an oncology ward and romance. And Wavelength came about oh, this is really embarrassing, but because of muffins, I love muffins, and Shutterspeed because of something I saw one day. So yeah, they're just, honestly, they're small fragments from real life that I observe, but also imagine in a different way. So we exist in the real world, and for some of us, like me, who's a bit of a daydreamer, we see what's actually happening in front of us, or we hear what we hear. But then, of course, our mind is imagining, but what if it was different? And that's what happens with me. And so, yeah, you never know. I have no idea where my next idea is going to come from, but I need to be observant and keep washing the dishes, as you say. It's also helpful.
And eating muffins and all the rest.
All of these things contribute to creativity.
Yeah, that's it. Well, do you have any advice for authors, I guess, who either are a bit stuck or just even getting started with book writing or anything? Any pearls of wisdom that might have helped you along the way in the beginning, or just be one with the world, maybe?
That sounds good.
Put you on the spot there.
Look, I have to remind myself of this as well, but I want to have fun. No one's making me write. My publisher isn't going, hurry up and write your next book. No one's forcing me to do this. Actually, if anyone is, it's my fans. Like, hurry up and read and write the next book. I've just finished reading your new book. So it's just to have fun. Write the thing which interests you. Don't try to follow trends because they're elusive and they fade out anyway. And it takes, it might take you 3, 4, 5 years or more to write a book. But honestly, it's the process. That's yours. And I guess the other thing is keep it to yourself for as long as possible. That's because it's a really fun thing to do, and it's a really nice relationship you can build with the story. And plus, you need to have control over it for as long as possible, because as soon as someone reads it, you're going to get, and what would they know, honestly? You're going to get their perspective and it might change it. And early on, I don't want anyone's feedback. And so I've got to, I've started something new now, and people keep asking me what it's about. So I have to work out what I'm going to say, but not say too much, so that it remains special to me and not kind of public property, if that makes any sense. So I hope that's good advice. Have fun and keep it to yourself for as long as you can.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. And you advise people to, like, authorship is a fun, good career type thing. Go for your life.
It's intense. It's all of these things. Like at the moment, I'm in book promotion mode, and the adrenaline's quite high because this thing that I've been working on for 4 years and I've had in my brain for 6 years I don't have any control over this now. People are reading it and I'm terrified. And I'm like, don't tell me. I'm like, writing it is one thing, but having people read it is this really scary thing. And so I'm on heightened alert. Like the anxiety is very high. So there's all of these feelings. It's not all just, fun and games and cocktail events and things like that. And most of it is spent on your own. And for me, I really like that. So you have to be okay with that, like most of my day, I go for days and days without talking to anyone. Luckily I have a dog, and a partner, I should say. He does talk to me, but I don't see anyone else. And that's okay, because I need that quiet time. Yeah, if this appeals to you, then go for it. And the other thing is, you don't choose to be an author. I never chose to be an author. It was something that it feels now inevitable, because writing was what I did in my spare time. Writing was what lit me up, and I'd be writing now anyway, even if no one was publishing me. So it doesn't feel like, it's something you choose. It feels like something you do. And the fame and whatever comes with it, that's all fun. But the reality is, if you like being quiet and creating, then it's the thing for you.
Oh, no, that's well said there. And I won't ask you what you're working on next. I will let you sit with that, but I will ask you.
I've got to practice what to say, though. I think it's going to be, can I say, though, it's adult, because one song feels like it's everything I could possibly say to teenagers, everything I feel now and everything I felt then and everything I want to tell teenagers around Australia. It feels like it's in there. And because of that, I think I'm done.
But I think that's really cool. And I think
at the moment it is.
Speaking of like a body of work, like one of the questions I was going to ask is whether you had even thought of a body of work. But I guess the body of work to me, I think, is probably exactly what you're saying. Like, it's the messages you want to give to people and put out. And your books are all full of that. And I guess if you're saying you're coming in one song that's got everything, maybe you've closed the door on that sort of side. But I'm 17. There's 17 in that category, again with the categories, but they have that. Is it new adult is nearly classified as that, like a sort of gateway where, you know, adults are maybe reading it as well as the younger side. So
I think probably half of my readers are adults, to be honest, because I don't write down with YA, and in fact I think they could be marketed as adult, to be honest, because I'm not writing about, you know, pimples and puberty. I'm writing about big ideas that can, like, I have so many adult readers go, I love your books because they really resonate with me. This is how I feel. I'm like, yeah, because that's how I feel now. But I think, it feels like I can't imagine writing anything else for young adult right now. But having said that, maybe I will down the track, but I feel like it's all in there. But I'm happy to try adults, and I've actually got 2 full adult manuscripts that I've written in the past, but like when I was younger, just for fun, because not everything you write has to be published. You know, sometimes you write and it's for you, or it's practicing your skill. And so I have written for adults before, and I'd like to continue doing that. So I think that's where I'm going. My current idea, not that I've spent a lot of time on it lately, but my current idea is for adults. And but again, who knows? I don't think about my body of work. It's only in retrospect when I look back and go, oh yeah, look at all these things they have in common. Yeah. But I don't have a bigger picture in mind. I'm very much focused on the one thing in front of me, and I'll give that everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to be, unlike myself, who's all over the shot and it doesn't feel like it's accomplishing much, but I'll get there.
Honestly, it's something I had to learn. I had to learn, Jo. It's because I love ideas and I love chapter 1, and I had to train myself to, when a new idea comes along, to look at it and say, thanks, you can wait over there and just stay with the thing. But if the thing in front of you doesn't, you know, intrigue you, then maybe it's not the right thing. But just to stay focused and tell the other thing to wait. And that's what I do with ideas now. I just tell, and if they're good ideas, they're going to wait.
They'll stay there. Yeah, that's it. Well, they've all been fabulous. And can you please tell our listeners where they can find you and your lovely book in stores and online?
Thank you. So all bookstores in Australia should have my books, and just Google online the usual places. If you want to see me, I've got a website, ajbets.com, but I'm on Insta. You can check me out, AJ Betts Writes. So that's AJ Betts, WRITES. I'm on Facebook, but not as much. But shoot me a message if you like. And I hope you like the books.
Oh, thanks, AJ. That was very inspiring and incredible. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So there you have it, folks, the super inspiring AJ Betts. And I attended AJ Betts' launch of one song last week, and it was awesome. Very cool. She had a band and she had the wristbands, and got to see a lot of people I haven't seen for a long time. So it was just wonderful. I've read all of AJ's work, and pretty much in one sitting. So you should go and check her out. Her books are just delicious. Next time on the Hybrid Author podcast, we have double duo, children's author Jen Pierce and fine artist and publisher at Wild Eye Press Leanne White, chatting to us about small publisher-author process. I wish you well in your author adventure this next week. That's it from me. Bye for now.
That's the end for now, authors. I hope you're further forward in your author adventure after listening, and I hope you'll listen next time. Remember to head on over to the Hybrid Author website at www.hybridauthor.com.au to get your free author pass. It's bye for now.